Claims, I did renew or file the business entity report with the Secretary of State's office this month. It wasn't due until the end of March, but I figured while I was thinking about it, I might as well get it done. So there's a reimbursement for the filing fee of $22. Angelos and Reardon sent an invoice for preparation of the tax returns and 1099s from last year. And then there's some legal services for the special grant agreements. And then there's the payment to the city of LaPorte that goes towards the salary of code enforcement. There's a balance of a business loan from last year at Salon 704 to finish up electrical work in the amount of $327. And then there was an overpayment by the New York Blower on their EZBR registration fee. So it's a check to reimburse New York Blower for that. So there's a total of $14,796.33.
Motion to approve claims.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the claims? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. Moving right along, monthly financial statements. And these would be the financial
These are
statements.
from December?
December, yes. So these would be our final numbers for December then?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing unusual about it.
The only thing, we got most of our receivables, there's still
We still
100,000
have,
out.
in the packets in front of you, there's a legal size sheet of paper that has the 2025 budget. And the receivables listed on that is $101,838. We have received this month about 46,000 of that. I sent out second invoices the beginning of the month, giving the businesses a chance until the end of the month to pay it. So if they don't pay it by January 31st, they'll get another invoice, and I'll just stay on them.
Yeah, so we'll work through at the end of the month and just get with me, and then if there's anybody that we think there's gonna be an issue with amounts or timing or whatever, you and I
Right.
could work through it, so that's fine. So it looks like we're getting to finalization on
Yeah,
collected.
our biggest payers have paid.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I think nothing I had on the financials. I will entertain a motion for the financials for December.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a
You
second.
second? Okay.
Any discussion on the financials? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those are passed. We had old business. I have a couple things under old business, which are technically, we've had Mary Ann putting some of the pending items in number 16, which I'm going to consider technically old business. So we've had, I know Bert's on here and he's had discussions, but Bar Holdings, we were waiting on some of the finalization of that as one of our pending items. They have reached out. There is some increased cost of construction, which after they sent some of the plans downstate to get approved, has caused a delay, and the fact that the costs are going to go up a little bit by the modifications that need to be made. So we're working through that with them currently, so probably more to come, I would think, next month in terms of recommendations, suggestions as to how we move forward with Bar Holdings and that building at, I can't remember what's the exact address is. I always say the old
It's
LaPorte
the 800 block of
Old LaPorte
Lincoln
Sporting
Way,
Goods building
across from the
downtown, so-
courthouse.
So we'll just sort of table that. Anything you want to add, Bert? Does that sum it up?
Nope, that was a good job, Mike.
All right. We also have, and I think Mary Ann has put that in front of you, a development agreement for Boiler Group, and this was the old Coddington building. So,
That is in your packet,
yeah. So,
probably towards the bottom.
so basically, what we have approved, because they haven't seen, have they seen the original copy of this?
Nope.
Okay. So basically, we have an agreement with them, so it's a 3-year agreement, which we've had our attorney, Matt Hagenow, put together this addendum per our approval of the project, and an agreement up to $150,000 over a 3-year period based on timing, et cetera. So the development agreement that we always do on these special grants has been put together. It's been submitted to Boiler Group, who has in turn responded. They made just a couple slight modifications, and what you are seeing is the agreement. I've looked it over. Bert's looked it over. I'll leave it to the board as to whether you want to table this or if we want to get this approved. Is there a timing concern here, Bert, in terms of?
There's not. We got the edits back today, so wanted to share with the board as quickly as possible, but there's not a rush to consider this, although I will say the agreement itself is exactly what the UEA board approved a couple of months ago. It's just formally written into the agreement with only a very slight change which Mike referenced, and Mike, if you don't mind, you could actually just review that change right now and so everyone's aware.
And I am trying to review that change.
The budget for this year has $50,000 in it for this project. So then over the next 3 years.
So basically what the change was, we had agreed to do 50,000 per their completion of each floor. Their only stipulation, and this is a conversation that we had gotten in with them at the time, so they're contracting out windows and doors. I believe with Meyer Glass, who is one of our approved contractors for windows and those things for those projects, and we've had for several projects. So I think so the amendment is the 50,000, the first 50,000 would go to the completion of the windows. We can either pay that direct, we can work that out, but ultimately, it's not going to be just for a specific floor, and that's what they sort of want to delineate, is like, hey, we're not going to have a completed floor. We're basically doing the windows on all the floors and the doors on all the floors. So that would be the first phase, and then they would go on the schedule of second, third, fourth floor, and then we would complete our granting at that level. So as long as you're fine with that, we can approve it. That was the only change to what we originally said. We just said, hey, 50,000, you complete this floor. The next year, we'll give you 50,000. We'll see that floor is complete. We're just going to be actually in turn just sort of verifying that the windows and the doors that we do on the first phase are complete.
Mike, the only thing I would add to that, the only other changes, they would prefer us for the first 50,000 just to pay the contractor directly, so that we would be paying Meyer Glass directly once that work is completed and inspected by the city engineer to verify that the work is to code and acceptable.
So we would get an invoice from Meyer Glass, and if it exceeds $50,000, we're only obligated for $50,000. What
That's
if it's
correct.
less than $50,000?
It won't be. It will not, for what they're doing, it won't be. But we're
Okay.
only going to pay the lesser of the amounts, obviously.
Okay.
But we are up to the 50,000 because I think they're going to have doors and that as well. So yeah, so that, and thanks, Bert, because actually, to be honest, that's our preference anyways. If we were to pay the contractor, we know the work's getting done. So I guess I'll open it up. I mean, if you guys don't care about approving it now, I'll entertain a motion. Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we can let them know. The other item I had on here, oh, a couple other things I had noted. So just a murals update. I think we've talked about this. We've allocated money in our budget to support mural projects. There's an ongoing discussion. We're working closely with Craig Phillips in the planning department in terms of the processes that go around that. Also with Janet Block at the Lebesnick Center, who's sort of coordinating the process from the artistic side of it. So there's a lot of good things going on. There might be another partnership in terms of a grant that could be matching ours, which we're awaiting information on that. And as well as she is meeting with Craig has coordinated a meeting, I think, end of January in terms of the downtown, developing a process or a group that oversees and approves these murals to make sure that they're sustainable. All the things that I think we requested in terms of being able to do this down the road. So that's in the works. Hopefully in February, I think we'll have a lot more information in terms of how that goes, and it should be exciting couple of grant awards, hopefully in 2025.
Craig, David Heinold, and myself are meeting with the city attorney next week
Okay.
to start crafting legalities and
Yeah.
applications and a formal process.
And thank you for that, because I did tell Craig I can stay out of the coordination of that process, so I offered Mary Ann's services as our consultant to sit in on our behalf for the UEA and bring that back to the board for us. And if something I needed to be involved with, then I would. So we'll go with that. The other thing I wanted to mention too and bring up, we did have budgeted, I think, I talked to Jeff Batchelor briefly. We did have budgeted, I think, a total of $85,000 within a $10,000 additional allotment. He is asking, due to the budget, and I'm working through this, I just want to sort of, we'll probably talk about this more in February. I'll get him to give me a formal diagnosis or action that he wants to take to the board, but I think he's looking to reallocate some of those funds to code enforcement as opposed to supervision of the dumpster. So we're going to need to consider that, and he said he'd be glad to come in. I told him to just sort of put together sort of a synopsis for us to discuss and review. I said he's been pretty good about the program. We all support the dumpster program. We just know that it could be a large endeavor if we wanted it to be, so we have to sort of cap out the budget, but he just asked that some funds be reallocated in that extra $10,000. So more to come on that, and I'll have that for you next month. I think that's it. So we want to, I'm going to go to our new business, which is the presentation for the grant request for Cutler Properties, 822 Lincoln Way. And I guess we've got a grant request, we've got a grant application. This is a special grant, so some of the things this is something that we would have to decide on whether we pursue. It would need to get as I mentioned, a development agreement that we would have written up that would lay out the requirements of the board or our board as well as them in terms of their performance. So her request is 50% of each year, which is 42.8, so we're looking about, so in 2025, and I did look at our budget, we are, in the special grant funds, we do have sufficient allocations to do, at least at this stage, but, so she's looking for 50% of 42.8, which is a 21.4 and 25. And then the 72,000, which is basically 36,400, and then we've got 46,400 in the third year. So I'm looking for input from our board. I guess this is, I mean, I'm just gonna speak, I support what they're doing for sure. I just need to get the boards.
I feel like it's difficult to be critical of this particular one.
Yeah.
Like on a personal level.
Right, oh, for sure, yeah.
When I look at the numbers, it seems to me like a huge ask. And when I look at the returns that they'll be getting, it makes me wonder, would we do this for someone else? Like, is this something that is done? Because I've not seen anything like this before.
And I guess that's the question that I sort of prefaced with them. It's a little bit, like, when you think of the total projects that we've been doing, granted, we did, now if you look at Boiler Group, for instance, we're given $150,000 over 3 years, but the total project cost is in the seven-figure range. It's over, the investment is a lot larger, so the percentage to the investment is larger than what we normally would give out, yes. And the antagonist to that would be, they've done some of this stuff prior to special grants before to their building. You know, it's something that you guys got to get comfortable with. I don't want to dictate either way. So, like I said, I support it. The numbers is where we would have to come in. If you don't feel the full amount, which we're talking close to, it'd be about $104,000 of a $208,000 project. So it's up to you.
I feel like that number they plan to recoup in 2 years. So at $4,000 a month. I feel like that's, just personally, it doesn't seem like this seems like a new business grant that will, where they will be breaking even in 2 years. That seems like a big ask to me. And maybe not. I'm a little, I don't know. It's an awkward conversation to have because of who we're talking about, but it does seem to me like that is I'm not so sure we would do that for somebody that has that much to gain from it, because it's going to happen anyway. Or not.
Does anybody else have any opinions on it?
I support them. I think they're great people. They've been here forever. They do great things for the community. The difficult thing is they are going to recoup the money, but if we don't help them out, they're not going to be able to get it done for 10 years.
Right.
So I support it. I support the grant.
I support it, and I believe it will bring revenue to LaPorte if they're bringing these people in. And I know people that from other cities that use these, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing if they didn't have that. The people, the artists, you know, and I think it's great.
Bert, you got a comment?
Yeah, just listening to the comments, I understand, Ryan, what your question as well. To me, it, as someone who does a lot of this particular negotiating for the city, I would fully expect anybody to come in and ask for as much support as they can get on a project, right? That's just only natural, that's human nature. So it sounds to me like most are supportive of the project, as am I. It's probably more so how much money, how much is the grant, how much do we offer in terms of the grant and the structure by which those dollars come in, or is it staged over a 3-year period of time? Or upfront, and if that's the case, I'm pretty flexible with that as well. I think there's a way that we can help them, and we can probably make it budget friendly for us by doing it over a couple of years. I don't think I think the numbers that they used potential return is quite obviously their best case scenario. I would be shocked just dealing with construction projects like this if the ROI is actually 2 years. I think Scott will probably agree with me that when we look at projects like this, many times when you go to the bank or when we're discussing our ideal situation, we talk about it could happen this way, but in practicality, that ROI is going to be extended out over a longer period of time, I can guarantee you, regardless of whether we support this with a grant or not. And so because they've structured it as a 3-year improvement project, I would suggest maybe we follow suit and look at their grant over a 3-year period of time. Again, making it a little more budget friendly for us as well.
I was going to say the same thing. I support this, and I think it's just based on, as we're going to see with a couple of the other grants that we've awarded, it's similar to the one we just discussed earlier, that everybody's finding out the construction costs are more when they try to develop a building. So ultimately they come back and then, hey, now the numbers don't work. We need more support. And in every single scenario, this is a private-public partnership when it comes to every building downtown. I hate to say it, but they're buildings that they're never going to recoup the market value out of those buildings unless they stay into them for years and years and years. So I'm with everybody, I guess. I'm thinking more, I think we pull it down a little bit. If I was to recommend, and I know everybody just wants somebody to throw out a number so they can see it, but I'm thinking more of like the 25, 25, 25, one per year for a 3-year period. It's still a little bit more than traditional, but I think based on the historical performance of what they've done, I'm afraid if we go too low, it's going to end up being a situation where it is a 10-year deal. But I do understand we want to make this palatable because this is a special grant, so we have to make sure that we have a logistic case for the reason why we're doing this. And ultimately, it's to get the building complete. And every one of these buildings, unfortunately, is a unique project. So I'll throw that out there. I can't make the motion, but, and then, we'll go back to them and then see what they can do to make it happen. And if not, if it's good, then, and if you guys have other suggestions, let me know.
I feel like, I know it looks like a lot of money, but in 3 years, I know what construction costs are doing. I don't think they have enough money there right now. If they try to get contractors in there to do the work they want to do right now, I don't think there's enough money here. And it's only going to get worse as the years go by. So cutting it is going to make it more difficult for sure.
So you have a motion?
Is it too far out of line from what we've done in the past?
I don't think dollar-wise it's out of line, for sure. I mean, we've done projects in the past. I mean, even it's evolved, but the civil engineer and Royal with Cheese building there, that was one of our first projects. Obviously, we developed the Bare Bones building. I mean, and they're all special. So, I mean, if you feel strongly about the project, then we're just going to have to get behind a number, I guess, is what it ultimately comes down to.
The work that they want to do, the structural work that they want to do to that building, that's not going to be cheap.
So you're saying you'd like to fire it away. We'll see if you get a second. I'm assuming you're going for 50%, what they requested.
I'll make the motion for the request.
Do we have a second?
I believe it was the
Second.
104.
Can we cap it at the requested amount?
Yeah.
For what they've requested in the grant
Yeah.
application?
so
The
basic-
104,000,
200.
Yes. In the phases, I'm assuming, Scott, in the phases that they've laid
Correct.
out. So
in
42.8,
3 phases.
72.8, and then as Ryan said, well, we've got a second with Cassie. So in the discussion, the suggested amendment would be to cap that at 50% or at those dollar amounts, not 50% if the costs inflate,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll.
Okay, can you
so any-
repeat
so-
that?
So any overages they would be responsible for, we would grant. And then with that being said, Bert will work with with our attorney and get a development agreement based off of that approval. Mary Ann will formalize the approval. And then that's the last part of the discussion. Anything else?
So the motion was for the 104-200 in phases.
In
They
3
complete the
phases.
first phase, just like we're doing on the other building we just talked about.
At
Complete one phase.
50% of the current amounts to
Current
cap.
amounts.
And then pending approval of development agreement that we get signed. And we have a second with Cassie. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. I think that is it. I've got 15 different pages in front of me here. So we've got, anything else, Mary Ann, that you're thinking of?
No,
Then I want to take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor?
All right.
All right, we're
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, guys.